Sup. Welcome back. I'm super excited for today. As you can see, I have power now, and they just got our water restored. So life is mostly back to normal. But what I really want to talk about is Echoes of the Triumphant. It's an indie book that was sent to me by the creator Pat Murphy, and today I want to talk about what it's all about and let you know why you should be paying attention to this. So before I ramble too much longer, don't forget to like and subscribe, comment, connect, or do whatever you're supposed to do on the platform you're watching this on. Pretty much anywhere you're at, you should be able to find my picture somewhere. It's an orange circle. It's got my hairy face in it, and if you click next to that, you should be able to set some sort of notification or follow and learn about everything I do as I do it. So don't forget to hit all those buttons and keep up with what I'm doing. So, Echoes of the Triumphant is an indie book. It's created by Pat Murphy. He also wrote the book. The art is done by Jarrod Bezzina. The lettering is done by Michael McAdam, and editing is done by Alexi Kott. And this is published under, I think this is Pat Murphy's own label, REVERB Comics. So this book is very much an indie creation, very down to earth, very homegrown. The artwork to me is kind of hit and miss in the sense that it's not quite as polished as what we expect, and so sometimes the imagery is a little off and it's hard to tell exactly what's happening. But there's also a strong sense of somebody that's developing their storytelling visually, and never do I actually feel lost in the book. So I thought all of that was really cool. And then there's definitely some excellent world building going on, although at times it's a little bit too direct to what it is. And so that's what I would like to see change a little bit in the writing, is just a little more, I guess a little more show, a little less tell. But overall, I enjoyed the story, and there's a lot of great concepts in here. And, there's some things I really want to touch on because I enjoyed certain elements of this book individually. So the first thing I wanted to kind of point out is the kind of like the real world references. For instance, there is, I guess let me give a little bit of a background on the book here. Basically, you have an event. It kind of, the way that they talk about and around it kind of reminds me of like the Static Shock cartoon, where like there was some kind of chemical explosion and people have gotten powers from this. They call them tweaks. And they generally just describe it as like stronger, better, faster kind of powers. But at the same time, the brother comes back in this book, and he apparently has the ability to communicate with technology. So I don't know if bigger, better, faster, stronger, if that's just like a reference to like all the different things that can happen, or if everybody gets kind of like these same power sets and what all the powers are that come with that. But we do see where like there's kind of a real world callback to Uber. So they have this service called Speedy Retreat, and you basically pull out your phone just like Uber and order one, and this guy comes running up in kind of like a Flash style suit, and you jump on his back and he takes you wherever you need to go. So I thought that was really cool, very creative. And in that same sequence, you kind of learn that in this world, there's the reaction to the explosion and people developing powers was that they created this basically like the Registration Act or whatever. So if you have powers, you have to register. And I don't know exactly, it wasn't totally clear on what all the rules and stipulations there are, but they do this news broadcast that kind of sets it up as if they're being forced into labor. Like, if you register as a tweak, if you register and your tweak is speed, well then it sounds like you have to do this Uber speedy retreat service or whatever, and so they're in the news segment, they're kind of showing this off as like they're comparing it to slavery, because I think they're getting paid for their work, but at the same time, like, they're basically being exploited. And I don't know, like, that's one of my issues with the book at the same time, is that there's a lot of things that are touched on, but nothing is really rounded out or nailed down. And so I feel like in some ways there's world building there, but it's not quite complete enough to give me the entire picture. Um, the other thing, I feel like instead of creating analog situations, sometimes what the writing does is tries to kind of like force these archetypes. So they keep talking about how the unemployment and homeless rates are going up in the city. And this seems to have something to do with this event that gave these people powers and the Registration Act that came from that. Except I don't understand what the connection is between all of that. Like, why is unemployment and homelessness going up because there was an explosion and other people got powers? Because like you see these like bird people with like wings, they're like flying banners around the city, so like advertising, right? So, instead of sky signs and sky writing and stuff, you have these birds flying around the city with like billboards. So that seems like more jobs were created. If you assume that like somebody has to clean up the mess from this explosion, that's more jobs that would be created. No, not all of that is like long-term situations, but the whole book seems a little focused on how like there's new opportunities and new jobs. It's just they don't know how to regulate the industry for the people with powers. But at the same time, like the unemployment rate's going up. So are they insinuating that people that got powers took all the jobs from the regular people? Because I don't really see that being a thing. Now you're going to have like new research and new medical doctors to help these people with power. Like, if anything, I feel like the powers situation, developing these tweaks would actually increase employment and open up like new industry and new opportunity. So yeah, there's things like that where the world as a whole doesn't really come together, but there's little elements that are seeded throughout that I'm really interested in, and I think they do a good job there. The artwork, on the other hand, it has a great sense of storytelling. I never feel like lost in a panel or lost on a page. Everything is conveyed well. It's not the most visually appealing style, and it's definitely an artist that's still on a development path. But I think it's great to see somebody jump into comic creation and have the confidence to do this at this point in their artistic development. I think it's really cool. And honestly, like, it's not that much different or that much more of a miss from what I saw in Superman, Wonder Woman, Future State. Like, the hands and stuff look almost exactly the same as some of the hands that were drawn in the Future State Superman, Wonder Woman book. So I don't think the art is absolutely awful. And in fact, there's some things I actually kind of like about it in a like charming sort of way. The way that people hold phones, just like, I don't know, it's definitely an artistic rendering of how we hold our phones, but it's not inaccurate either. I've seen that grip. They always grab phones and the fingers come over them and stuff. It almost reminds me of like some of the weirder stuff that they might still do this, but I don't watch TV really. But on Adult Swim, they used to have a lot of shows that were like little 15-minute segments, and they were like some really, really cool animation, but also like really rough and stuff, but it made it kind of charming. And that's how this book feels. Like, some of the art is like, yeah, this is rough, but it's kind of charming. And if you can look past the aesthetics, again, the storytelling's there. This artist, Jarrod Bezzina, definitely knows how to tell a story. And I'll also say the artwork is consistent. The character models are always the same. There's a certain level of consistency that I really appreciate about it too, versus somebody that was like not a great artist that was also doing stuff like the characters were different in every panel and stuff. Like, very consistent artwork, just not the strongest artwork. But again, the storytelling's there. I'm never lost anywhere. And I like the more like meta level of the world building that's going on. Although I'm a little disappointed in some of the specifics and details that I feel like needed to be present when you're willing to put like two world-renowned economists on a TV broadcast to kind of give the exposition of your world. I think at that point, like, you do have to make sure all that stuff's developed, because they're making these scientific arguments, but I mean, as a regular person, I feel like there's a lot of holes in their arguments Just because I don't know, like I said, some of the details are missing when you really get down to the brass tacks of it. Overall, I really enjoyed this book. I do want to read more of this. I'm excited to see what happens in the next one. I am a fan of watching artists and writers grow and develop, and I like seeing what they're doing, but before they get there, because I talk to a lot of up and coming people, and I see where they're like staying within the lines, but they're also kind of doing these little divergent things, and they're creating a new style, and they're creating something that I haven't seen yet. And so that's what I really like about this kind of stuff. I think there's a lot of good things to say about Echoes of the Triumphant, and I think there's like some obvious pitfalls that it has. But at the end of the day, I really had a fun time reading this. I've read through it 3 times now, and there's like some good family drama stuff going on there. I wish the dialogue was a little bit stronger between the characters, like the family. It seems like every character is always trying to deliver a one-liner. And like when I talk to Bob and Kevin about writing comics and comedy in comics, that's one thing they stress is like you kind of just have to throw every joke at that you can at the audience, because you don't know what's going to stick and what won't, but they'll laugh at the ones they like and they'll read through the ones they don't like, and it's all good. But this particular book, it does feel a little bit like everybody's trying to be the funniest person in the room at all times, and some of the jokes kind of fall flat for me. So I would like to see a little bit stronger dialogue between the characters, especially the family members. I would like to see some nicer things about the main character. He's a little bit hard to like in this first issue. But I think, if you took an iron over him, you could get some of those wrinkles out and find a pretty cool character in there. Like, there's a good element of, like, his association, like, with his job and the powers and all of, everything going on in the world. There's, like, this good association. His disposition is just a little too negative, and it makes him a little unlikable. So I think, yeah, if you could hit him with an iron, take a couple of those wrinkles out, you would create a really cool character that could be really interesting in a world that's kind of upside down. He has like a power suit now, so I'm excited to see how that plays out. There's like this cool like rivalry he has with his brother that could play out as something really interesting. So I'm excited to see more. I really enjoyed Echoes of the Triumphant. And I'm excited for Echoes of the Triumphant #2, however far down the road that is. So that's my review for today. I'm glad that life is getting back to normal. Go ahead and give me a rating. Thumbs up if you're on YouTube. If you're on social media, leave a comment so I know you're there. If you are listening on the podcast, give me a review, especially as much as I don't really care for Apple, they kind of own the podcast metrics and the podcast game. So if you are on an Apple device, please give me a review there. And, I'd love 5 stars, but hey, I'll take 3. So other than that, keep flipping pages.